This is the Lafe Hill, the site of the fiercest battles during the Philippine-American War in November 1899 and in World War II, the last days of January 1945. Good morning, everybody. We're here now on the slope of Lafe Hill. It's one of the battle sites, not only in World War II but also in the Philippine-American War. And speaking of the Philippine-American War, we have a relic here found near the slope, which it was actually one of the markers of the original Fort Stotsenburg military expansion order issued by then US President Theodore Roosevelt, encompassing all the mountains of Bamban and Capas and all the way to Mount Pinatubo. And as you could see here, it's on the slope, and that's Lafe Hill, a very historic site. Could you please come over? So, by the way, guys, I'm with me are the my friends from the Bikers Association, Sir Chris, Sir Aris, and you guys. Thank you very much for coming. Okay, you could see the slope of the Lafe Hill, and here it is. It's 1908. You know, it's a boundary marker established by the US Army at that time, in accordance to the executive order issued by President Roosevelt on the expansion of the Stotsenburg Military Reservation. And here, wow, and make it 2 minutes na. So this is a US military reservation. This is no trespassing, written in English. There are two languages actually, English and Spanish. Okay. I could only read this one is Kapampangan.
Bawal magdaan.
Bawal magdaan. Tama ba? Hindi yata Kapampangan yun.
Bawal magdalan.
Magdalan. So yeah, it's no trespassing also in Kapampangan. So this is an important historical relic of the Philippine-American War and with the expansion of Stotsenburg. And I'm glad it's still here, although it fell down. But to think at that time, a lot of these boundary signs, you know, warning the locals about the area as a military reservation, and these were all scattered here in Bamban on the hills of the Grotto, Lafe Hill, Panaisan, and it goes all the way to Capas, and Capas to Mount Pinatubo. And this is what encompasses now the military reservation. The location of this marker is behind the Sapang Bituka. That's the Lafe Hill. And this is the Stotsenburg Military Reservation marker. That's the grotto to the left. It's a relic of the Philippine-American War era. On a hallowed ground on the top of near the top of Iba Hill, or what you call Lafe Hill at the moment. This is a very historic site. unknown to history. It's a forgotten history of the Philippine-American War. The Lafe Hill had become one of the outlook hill of the Filipino Army of Liberation in early November 1899. The reason why I am standing here is to document this place that became a battlefield on November 9, 1899. General Arthur MacArthur, the father of Douglas MacArthur, they captured Mabalacat on November 8, 1899, along with his 2 infantry regiment, the 9th and the 12th Infantry, and another infantry, the 36th Infantry Volunteers under Colonel Bell. The unit was encamped at the nearby Old Dolores, and the Filipino soldiers, numbering about more than 100, commanded by a Filipino captain on this top of this hill, built trenches on the east slope near the summit. It's where I'm standing now, and at the bottom here there were about 3 companies. The mission of Colonel Bell is to recon the defense of Bamban, which is just on the other side of the hill, the Grotto Hill, and the Mansion Ridge, where another reinforced battalion of more than 500 troops were waiting against the Americans. So the American forces under MacArthur were tasked to check first the Filipino defenses, and they knew that there was a big Filipino camp or base on this summit, and they cannot proceed to Bamban, the Bamban line over there, the Bamban trenches, without knowing the strength of the Filipino forces in front of the main line. And so a detachment led by Colonel Bell of the 36th Infantry, so from the Old Dolores there, which is now part of the ammo dump, they proceeded on this trail going to Mascop, and from Mascop they saw the more than 3 companies of Filipino soldiers lined, terminating on this hill. So what happened was that they could not penetrate that portion because they had only about 20 troops. So they decided to go at the back. They crawled the Lafe Hill, and from the back, okay, they surprised the Filipinos mining the trench line on this area. And it was a tough fight because the Filipino stayed on the trenches, fought the last. And after the fighting, there were about 19 Filipinos dead, including a captain, 3 wounded and 5 captured, with 30 Mausers. And for the Americans, it's a very important battlefield because 2 of the troops, American troops, were awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor in this small hill, on top of this small hill. Sergeant Hansman and Private Galt of the 36th Infantry. And the mission of Colonel Bell is to check the defensive line over there at the Bamban, the Grotto, it's now the Grotto, and the Mansion Ridge, where a big Filipino base was positioned to face General Arthur MacArthur's 1st Brigade and the 36th Infantry. So remember guys, a lot of Filipinos died here. Unknown Filipino soldiers, 19 of them, including a captain. The remaining, they withdrew to the next line, which is the Bamban line over there, and to remember their heroism. So we decided to come here, pay tribute to these Filipino soldiers, and remember history that happened here, in a sense that the bravery of the Filipino soldiers during the Philippine-American War, what I call the forgotten conflict of the Philippine-American War, will never be forgotten. Thank you. Okay, here's my cousin, Edsel Malyari. We're trying to check the ground of the tunnel. Probably some bombs or whatever relics of the war. So right now, my cousin is performing metal detection inside the tunnel. On a field reconnaissance with the Chris bikers group. We're thankful for their support in finding and researching about the Stotsenberg markers. And I think this is one of the fascinating finds of Chris group. It's a very intact Stotsenberg 1908 marker. Relics of the past that were constructed in the post-Philippine-American War, and these are the mute witness on the history that happened here from the time of the Philippine-American War, where the elements of General Maximino Hison occupied this area against the American advance of the 2nd Division under General MacArthur. And during World War II, the area where this marker now stands was occupied by the Takaya Shitai, the Japanese Kenbu Shodan composite group. And there were battles all around that took place in the vicinity of this area. And of course, who could forget the 1991-1992 Mount Pinatubo eruption. And it's fortunate that we have this one standing right here, well preserved. Thank you.